When a millionaire's daughter chose a homeless girl over wealth, a shocking family secret revealed. The clock struck midnight, but the world felt anything but quiet. In the heart of downtown, a sleek limousine rolled down the street, its polished chrome gleaming under the moonlight. Inside sat Nadine Sterling, the only daughter of a self-made billionaire, her delicate hands trembling. She stared out at the dimly lit streets with wide eyes. What drew her gaze was not the night's glamour, but a frayed figure huddled beneath the flickering light of a past-its-prime diner sign. It was a girl, no older than 17, wrapped in tattered layers of fabric, which could barely fight off the biting cold. Nadine felt her heart clench. The whispers of her perfectly manicured circle echoed in her mind, cautioning her against those beneath society's so-called proper class. Yet that girl, barely visible, grinned with such a fierce light, it pierced through the city's dark facade. Around them, upscale cars zipped by, oblivious to the stark contrast. An intoxicating mix of fear and defiance surged within Nadine. Could she really step outside her gilded cage? A second later, the car door swung open with a sharp creak, freezing the night. Gasps echoed as the driver and a bodyguard exchanged frantic glances. "Miss Sterling, please," they chorused, their faces pale, betraying their shock as if witnessing a stain on their pristine world. But Nadine had already leaped out, confronting the freezing air with the raw energy of a storm. The girl looked up, eyes wide with confusion, or maybe hope, as the distant hum of the city faded. It didn't just stop there. A slip of paper found its way from Nadine's pocket into the girl's hands, a note with no return address, only a curious message: "Tonight, your choice will change everything." Unbeknownst to them, a shadow loomed nearby. Someone was watching. Someone who knew far too much about Nadine's life and secrets buried deep. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a sharp noise shattered the moment a bottle crashed against the pavement nearby. The girl flinched, and Nadine's stomach twisted. An old man, hunched and ragged, mumbled curses as onlookers gawked in disbelief. Tension whipped through the air like a lightning bolt. Nadine's heart raced, a pulse of danger and adventure surged through her veins. What had she done? And more importantly, what would unfold if she truly reached out to that girl? The girl's eyes held secrets of their own, hinting at a life laced with mystery. Could she be the answer to unraveling a family tangled in glitter but overshadowed by shadows? Nadine felt like she was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. Whatever lay ahead could change not just her life but the lives of many. Could the choices she made tonight shatter the silent expectations surrounding her? Or would it only deepen the darkness lurking right behind her? The moment hung in the air like the tremble before a storm. Nadine and the girl locked eyes, an unspoken connection igniting between them. The chaos around them faded, it was just the two of them against the world. But seconds slipped away, and Nadine could feel something pulling at her, a sense of urgency, an almost desperate need to know more about this girl who wasn't just a shadow in the night. "Are you okay?" Nadine found herself asking, her voice softer than she intended, cutting through the noise of the gathering crowd. The girl blinked, her confusion turning to recognition, as if Nadine's words were a lifeline. I'm fine," she stammered, though the way she hugged her arms tightly around herself betrayed the truth. "Just cold?" Nadine finished for her, stepping closer, feeling the shivers radiate from the girl's frail frame. "What's your name?" "Lila." The girl's voice was tiny, almost swallowed by the city noise. "Lila," Nadine repeated, as if saying it aloud could somehow solidify the moment. I'm Nadine. She hesitated, glancing back at the limousine, where her life awaited. Was she really willing to abandon it all for a moment of connection? For a girl who had nothing? Before she could answer her own question, the old man screeched again, launching another bottle with an unsteady arm. It shattered right by Lila's feet, shards glinting like jagged stars on the asphalt. A collective gasp propelled through the crowd. Nadine's stomach dropped. "Get back!" her bodyguard shouted, pushing her protectively behind him. But Nadine didn't want to be protected. She wanted to shield Lila. "Stop it!" she yelled, her heart pounding against her ribcage. "Leave her alone." Suddenly, the street shifted, the air charged with tension. Curious eyes turned their way, and murmurs sparked like wildfires through the gathered crowd. Some stepped closer, watching as if the unfolding drama was worth a ticket. Lila's gaze darted toward the old man, and for a split second, her bravado faded. Fear flickered across her face before she shook it off. "I'm used to it," she insisted, her voice regaining strength. But Nadine could hear the despair lurking beneath the surface. In that critical moment, a flicker of realization struck Nadine, a chilling thought. "You've seen worse, haven't you?" she said, her tone gentle but firm. "What if you didn't have to anymore?" Lila's eyes widened, holding a torrent of emotions. But in the distance, a familiar figure emerged, and Nadine's heart sank. It was her father's business partner, Steve, striding toward them with purpose etched on his face. He had a knack for showing up when trouble brewed, a reminder that Nadine's life could explode at any moment. "Miss Sterling," he called, voice gruff as he neared. "Get back in the car." Panic surged through her. The thrill of freedom and choice began to slip away. Nadine turned to Lila, realizing this could be their only chance. "No matter what happens next," she whispered urgently, "don't lose hope." With a firm grip, she pressed a few bills into Lila's trembling hand. Hope glimmered in Lila's eyes as she held on to those scraps of freedom, as if they could somehow set her free from the chains of despair. But then Steve reached them, a storm cloud of authority. His disapproving gaze cut through the radiant connection between the girls. "Miss Sterling, time to come with me," he commanded, and Nadine felt that invisible chain pulling her away from Lila. Nadine hesitated. Chaos swirled around them, and in the background, she could hear muffled voices, people weighing in on the scene, their judgment lingering on the AIR. As she looked back at Lila, the girl gripped the money tightly, eyes brightening with an unfamiliar spark of possibility. "Wait!" Nadine shouted, voice rising above the noise, realizing it wasn't just about night or the cold streets. It was about choices and legacies, about what kind of person she wanted to be. "I'll come back for you." But would she? Would she dare defy her family's empire to save a stranger? What Nadine didn't know was that she was already standing at the beginning of a destiny that could shatter everything. The raw power of silent screams, stolen moments, and choices echoing through time. As she turned to leave, her father's shadow loomed over her like a harbinger of fate. Could she truly break away from the chains placed upon her? In a world overflowing with wealth and privilege, one choice had the potential to unravel it all. And a darker truth loomed nearby, waiting for Nadine to reveal itself. As the night deepened, the shadows darkened behind her, leaving behind unspoken questions. Was freedom truly worth the price? Who would pay it? Lila watched as Nadine turned away, her heart pounding in her chest. What had just happened? The fleeting connection felt electric, a thin thread connecting their disparate lives for that brief moment of defiance amidst chaos. She clutched the cash tightly, feeling the crumpled bills and the weight of a promise, though she didn't know what it would mean. Nadine's heels clicked angrily against the asphalt as she followed Steve, a solid wall of authority. The crowd began to disperse, their curiosity sated, but Lila felt frozen. She wanted to call out, to scream and demand that Nadine stay longer. But how could she? She was just a girl shivering in the night, while Nadine was royalty among the common folk. Just then, a whisper brushed past her ear like a ghost, a voice that seemed to come from nowhere but echoed deep within. Running away won't save you, you know. They'll always come back for you. Lila shivered, glancing over her shoulder, half expecting to see someone lurking behind her. Instead, the street lay empty, the remnants of the crowd fading into the echoes of laughter and the hum of city life. With no one around, she felt her strength drain away. "What do you want?" she whispered to the night, but the only answer was the wind that swirled around her, taunting and cold. Far away, Nadine climbed into the sleek black limousine, her bodyguard following and shutting the door behind them. Inside, the tension crackled wildly. The plush interior felt suffocating, like being wrapped too tightly in an expensive blanket. "What were you thinking?" Steve's voice was harsh, cutting through her moment of relief like a knife. Nadine leaned back against the seat, a lump forming in her throat. I couldn't just let him hurt her," she managed, her voice small, trembling at the edges. "And what if I could help her change, help her get away from all of this?" Steve's eyes darkened, shadowed like a thundercloud. "You can't change the world, Nadine. You can't save everyone. It puts your whole future at risk." His tone was stern, yet there was an undertone, fear, perhaps. In that moment, she understood there was more at stake than just Lila and the broken promises of the night. Nadine's heart raced as she remembered the look in Lila's eyes when she pressed the cash into her palm. It was a fleeting glimpse of unguarded hope. Did she dare to dive into a life that might shatter her carefully constructed world? "Life isn't a fairy tale," Steve continued, his voice steady, but with a hint of desperation. "If you want to please your father, you need to start acting like it." Lila, standing outside, felt every word reverberate through her. Freedom was a luxury she had long abandoned, a faint memory snatched away by harsh reality. But then a resolve hardened within her. If she could summon enough courage, maybe she could carve a path out of this wasteland of despair. Just maybe, she could chase down that fleeting moment of hope Nadine had sparked. Decisions echoed in the silence, igniting something she hadn't felt in years, the desire to fight. With trembling hands, Lila turned her back to the fading lights of the street. She moved forward, letting her intuition lead her through the maze of shadows towards the possibility Nadine had given her. Just then, all the noise was blotted out by a sudden crash. A nearby storefront window shattered, like the sound of a heart breaking. Lila whipped around. What now? As the chaos broke out, sharp screams sliced through the chilly air. A figure emerged from the smoke, hooded and menacing, rushing past the remnants of shattered glass, and while Lila froze in place, Nadine, in the limousine, felt a pulse deep in her soul tell her she wasn't done yet. "No. No. We can't leave," she insisted, gripping the seat as if it could anchor her dreams. "I have to go back. Lila needs me." But as the doors locked with an ominous click, Nadine's world swirled into turmoil. What had she sparked? What chaos lay in wait? And would it be too late for her to save both Lila and herself from the dark shadows closing in? Lila's heart raced as she took in the scene before her. A man hunched and shrouded in the dark moved through the broken glass like a specter. People scattered, their screams echoing in the night like a chorus of panic. Her instincts kicked in, but dread gnawed at her. "Get down!" A voice barked nearby, jolting her back to reality. It was a storefront security guard, desperately waving his arms. Lila's feet felt glued to the ground as the figure moved closer, the hood shadowing his face. Was he a threat or just another lost soul? In that moment, doubt gnawed at her resolve. The promise she clutched seemed to slip away, but she couldn't let fear paralyze her. She breathed deep, knowing she had to move. She darted behind a row of trash cans, feeling the grit beneath her nails as she gripped the edge. The hooded figure paused, casting a ghostly glance around. For a fleeting second, their gaze met. Lila's breath caught. In his eyes, she saw something familiar, a vulnerability echoing her own struggles. But before she could decipher it, he turned, disappearing into the smoke that spilled like ink along the street. At that moment, Nadine, in the cramped limousine, felt an urgency pulse through her. "Stop!" she shouted at Steve. "We need to turn back." Her voice trembled with the weight of being torn between safety and the growing dread that Lila was in danger. Steve's expression hardened, the steely resolve of a bodyguard battling his growing concern. "You can't just do it," she yelled, desperation spilling from her lips. Her world had shifted, and she needed to be part of Lila's, if only for a moment. As the driver adjusted course, Nadine's heart pounded like a drum, loud with the rhythms of anxiety and hope. Back on the street, chaos reigned. Shouts echoed as more figures appeared, rushing in response to the shattered glass. Police cars, their lights flashing blue and red, flooded the alleyway. The smell of burning rubber mingled with fear, turning the air thick with uncertainty. Lila crawled to the edge of the alley, peering out. The street was swarming with life, but she felt utterly alone. The figure was gone, lost in the pandemonium. Out of nowhere, hands grasped at her shoulders. "Stay down," a coarse voice hissed. It was a stranger, eyes wide with fear. "They'll think you were part of it." "What is going on?" Lila gasped, breathless. Her mind reeled. Was she caught in something more than she realized? "They're here for him," the stranger continued, glancing worriedly toward the police converging at the entrance of the alley. "We can't let them find him." Before Lila could ask who he was, the sound of footsteps echoed closer. Shiny black boots grounded the chaos to a halt. Officers emerged, shouting commands. The stranger tugged Lila deeper into the shadows. Her heart raced like a trapped bird. Who was the figure? Why were the police after him? In that moment, Lila felt the grim reality of her struggle bursting into an even harsher truth. Suddenly, through the ruckus, she spotted a flash of golden hair. Nadine's presence illuminated her world, a beacon through the storm. But there was no time for joy, she had to act. "Move quick," the stranger urged. Exhilaration and fear coursed through her. Time seemed to compress, thickening the air around her. Would she leap into the unknown alongside someone she barely knew? She looked toward the entering silhouettes of police officers. Lila could feel a new wave of determination swell like a tide. Her choices now mattered more than ever, but just as she prepared to follow, a loud shout cut through the noise. "There he is." In a split second, Lila had to decide, stay hidden or dive headfirst into a chase that could change everything. As the world swirled around her, one thought clawed its way to the surface. Was she ready to confront the truth waiting just out of reach? "Let us go," she shouted, fueled by a reckless bravery she had never tapped into before. But would she emerge as a victor or a casualty of this unfolding chaos? Lila's instincts kicked in, and without thinking, she surged forward, propelled by a blend of terror and adrenaline. She could hear the shouting behind her, but the urgency of the moment drowned out everything else. The hooded figure, this stranger with a fraught connection, was out there, somewhere in the swirling storm of chaos. "Come on." The stranger pulled her further back into the shadows, his grip tight. Lila could feel the heat of his panic radiating through her skin. She wanted to ask questions, to demand answers, but the scene unfolding outside kept her silent, trapped in the whirlwind of uncertainty. The thud of boots on concrete echoed loudly as more officers poured into the alley. Lila squeezed her eyes shut for a split second, bracing herself. She could taste the urgency on her tongue, earthy and metallic, mixing with fear. "What are they looking for?" she managed to whisper, trying to keep her voice low enough to avoid detection. He glanced back at her, hesitating for just a heartbeat. "A man they think is dangerous. He's not, I promise. He just got caught up in something." With an eye trained on the entrance, Lila's instincts sharpened. Dangerous or not, it didn't matter. She was already tangled up in it. "Then why are we hiding?" she pressed, until the desperation clawed at her throat. "Because if they catch him, we'll be next." Just then, a flash of blue and red lights flickered against the buildings, casting eerie shadows. Her heart clenched at the thought of being caught, of being mistaken for a part of something dark when all she wanted was light. As they pressed deeper into the shadows, the man abruptly halted. "Wait." He turned sharply, pointing back toward the entrance. "Follow my lead. Stay close." Lila nodded, her pulse pounding as she matched his steps, trying to remain calm amid the chaos that echoed behind them. Just then, the unmistakable sound of sirens blared closer, drowning out the terrified whispers and frantic footsteps. "We need to get out of here," she urged, her voice low but urgent. Before they could move, a sudden voice thundered through the alley. "You! Stop!" The command hung in the air, chilling every bone in Lila's body. Instinctively, she flinched, grabbing the fabric of her jeans to steady her own trembling. In one swift motion, the stranger yanked her behind a dumpster, just as two officers rounded the corner. Lila's breath hitched, clammy and desperate, the scent of trash mingling with her rising panic. "Please, don't let them see me," she muttered under her breath. The stranger positioned himself in front of her, shielding her from view. "Just breathe," he murmured, but she could hear the tremor in his tone. Every second felt like an eternity. The officers scanning the alley, their faces taut with determination. Lila's heart raced further. Her thoughts spiraled. What did they want? Who was this man? "Let us go," the stranger whispered once the officers turned away, and they slipped out from behind the dumpster. Pushing through the narrow gap between buildings, Lila's senses heightened. She could see flashes of lights bouncing on the walls, traces of chaos lurking after them. But she had a decision looming over her head. Was it worth the risk to follow someone who seemed just as lost? To chase shadows in her own life, each step felt heavy, burdened with the weight of uncertainty hanging in the air. "Where does this lead?" she asked, glancing around the tightly packed alleyways. "Trust me," he said, and for a moment, they shared a fleeting understanding. It was a bond built on fear and shared secrets, both graceless and fragile, but just like that, reality shattered with a sudden crash. A window nearby exploded outward, sending shards of glass like lethal rain. The stranger flinched, pulling Lila close, and in that moment, time stood still. "Go! Now!" he barked, fear kicking back in. Lila didn't need to be told twice. Her body moved on its own, guided by instinct. As chaos erupted behind them, the alley twisted and turned, leading into darker shadows. Lila felt the heat of panic rise while adrenaline blurred her senses. Yet, as they ran, pieces of the puzzle clattered in her mind. Who were they really running from? And amidst all this chaos, who could she trust? With one final burst of energy, they stumbled onto a side street leading into a crowded corner, a place where the hum of life felt comforting yet chaotic. But the questions hung heavy, and just as she turned to speak, she felt a hand grab her arm. "Lila." It was Nadine, face strained with worry, but relief flickered in her eyes. Lila's heart soared momentarily before the weight of the night crashed back. "Where did you go? We need to get out of here," Nadine exclaimed. Lila's brow knitted. "No. We can't leave. They're after him." Desperation dripped from every word. But with every second ticking by in the madness outside, a choice loomed larger. Lila had to decide not only whom to protect but also whom she was willing to risk everything for. But as an ominous crack echoed from behind the street corner, the world around her seemed ready to unravel. "Lila, what do you want?" Nadine pleaded, panic rising. In that moment, everything shifted. The storm was coming, and whatever lay ahead was going to test everything Lila thought she knew. "Find him," she whispered, her voice strong despite the fear leaping in her chest. And just like that, the night turned darker. The chase had begun. What lay hidden in the shadows of the truth would soon be revealed. The streets were alive with chaos, and the air crackled with the kind of tension that made one's skin crawl. Lila felt the weight of Nadine's grip on her arm, pulling her back to reality, but her mind was still racing. What were they risking? Was it worth it to chase after the unknown? But the thought of turning her back on someone in desperate need anchored her feet to the pavement. We have to move, Nadine urged, her voice urgent yet choked with anxiety. No. Lila yanked her arm free, frustration boiling inside her. You don't understand. He's innocent. They're after the wrong person. Lila, it's not just about him. We can't put our lives in danger because of a stranger. The panic in Nadine's voice forced Lila to look into her friend's eyes. They were wide, filled with fear that was almost infectious. The sirens in the distance began to fade as the officers seemed to regroup, but Lila's adrenaline was still soaring. I can't just abandon him, she said, determination flooding her words. Suddenly, the weight of the decision settled on her shoulders like an unshakable mantle. She was standing at a crossroads, and each direction could spell disaster. Lila glanced back at the alley where they had come from, half expecting to see the hooded figure re-emerging from the shadows. The tension twisted her gut. What if I could? Nadine started, but a loud crash interrupted their moment. A dumpster toppled over at the far end of the street, a harsh reminder of the fragility surrounding them. Lila's breath quickened. A flicker of movement caught her eye, a figure slipping between cars, looking frantic and desperate. There he is. She gasped, already instinctively moving before she could think. No, Lila. We can't. Nadine shouted, but Lila was past the point of no return. The figure paused just long enough for her to see his face, a mix of terror and relief washing over him upon spotting her. It was the stranger, the one who had pulled her from danger. Her heart surged, recognizing their shared bond only deepened by the weight of the moment. Come on. Lila called, motioning to him as she pushed through the crowd, the thrumming heart of the chaotic street enveloping her. People were oblivious, caught up in their own worlds, missing the storm brewing just beyond their senses. He stumbled toward her, glancing over his shoulder, his breath heavy with panic. You shouldn't have come back. He yelled, but there was a strange gratefulness in his eyes. We can get you out of here. Just trust me. Lila implored, adrenaline pushing her forward. She could hear Nadine's frantic protests behind her, but the world blurred into the background as Lila took the lead, a flicker of courage igniting within her. Nadine's voice faded, replaced by the pounding in her ears as she and the stranger barreled towards a narrow side street where shadows stretched hungrily and the echo of panic chased them. Why were they after you? Lila demanded, darting her gaze around for any sign of officers. What did you do? They think I'm connected to something far bigger than either of us. The stranger's voice turned grave, his eyes darting around, scanning for threats. I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. A heavy silence settled as they ducked behind an old bakery's forgotten door, catching their breath among the scent of stale bread and the remnants of pastries long past. What do you mean? Lila pressed, urgency slicing through the moment. Listen, there's something you don't understand about me, about everything. I didn't choose this life. He leaned closer, the shadows deepening the intensity in his gaze. Just then, a blinding light flooded through the door's cracked frame, bathing them in a ghastly glow. Lila's heart raced as she turned, every instinct screaming to flee once more. Go! They're coming! He hissed, gripping her arm tightly, preparing to burst through the door. But Lila hesitated, fear gripping her throat. What was the truth behind that fear? With the wall of shadows closing in, decisions had never felt heavier, and in the space between breaths, she could almost taste the secrets. Do I want to know? Lila whispered, her heart hammering, torn between the stranger she barely knew and the choice that felt larger than herself, and just as the door began to creak open, a sharp voice cut through the darkness. There. They went this way. In a split second, Lila's life began to plunge into deeper chaos, and the truth was about to unravel in a way she never could have imagined. What lay ahead could change everything. Clarity or catastrophe what awaited her in the shadows? Now! The stranger shouted, and in one frantic motion, they burst through the door and into the alleyway. Lila stumbled ahead, adrenaline spiking as they sprinted down the narrow passage, hearts pounding like a war drum. The sounds of chaos faded momentarily, only to be replaced by their heavy breaths and the distant thrum of panic that loomed behind them. Lila chanced a glance back, searching for any sign of pursuers, and her stomach dropped. Several figures moved through the street, their outlines harsh against the harsh glare of the streetlights. They were organizing, fanning out to search. "Where do we go?" she gasped, pulling the stranger to a halt. She glanced around, looking for an escape route as the walls of the alley loomed imposingly. "Keep moving," he urged, a fire igniting in his eyes. "There's an old warehouse at the end of this alley. It might give us a chance to hide." Before Lila could argue, he sprinted ahead, leaving her no choice but to follow. Her legs felt heavy, the quickening pulse of fear driving her forward. The warehouse loomed closer, dark and foreboding against the moonlit sky, like a gaping mouth ready to swallow them whole. Just as they reached the entrance, a loud shout echoed behind them. "Stop! In the name of the law!" The voice reverberated off the alley walls, sending a cold shiver down her spine. A knot of panic twisted in her gut, and she knew they had only seconds to act. "Inside! Now!" he urged, grabbing her wrist and yanking her through the shattered door. She stumbled in, her heart racing as she scanned their surroundings. Shadows danced against the walls, the musty air thick with the remnants of forgotten goods. They pressed against a wall, breathless, as urgency enveloped them. "Lila, you need to understand, they're not just after me. This goes deeper. There's something they want, something I didn't even know I had until tonight." "Something you have?" Lila's mind raced, desperately trying to comprehend the quicksand of uncertainty. "What do you mean? What could possibly make them hunt you?" Before he could reply, the shrill sound of footsteps approached. Lila's body went rigid, instinct screaming to hide deeper. They had to think fast, and there was no room for mistakes. "Look for a way out," he whispered, his eyes darting around the room. "If they find us," his voice trailed off, the implications heavy in the air. Lila immediately began to scan their surroundings. Old crates lay discarded, shadows creeping like tendrils toward them. One crate in particular caught her eye. It was slightly ajar, as if it had once contained something important but was now abandoned. "Over there. That crate." She pointed urgently, and they stumbled toward it. The sounds outside grew louder, voices overlapping in a frightening cacophony of authority. They squeezed into the dark recesses of the crate, hearts racing, bodies pressing as close as possible to avoid detection. The space was claustrophobic, but Lila didn't care. She was alive, and for the moment, that was enough. "Lila," the stranger murmured, his breath hot against her skin. "You shouldn't be here. I've dragged you into something dangerous." She shook her head, breath hitching slightly. "And leave you to face them alone? No way. I'm not going anywhere." Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting moment, the chaos faded. Then a sudden crash echoed from outside, the sound of boots hitting the warehouse floor. Dark silhouettes loomed over their hiding place, voices barking orders like gunfire. "Check every corner. They can't have gone far." Lila's heart thudded in her chest, panic swelling with each passing second. The stranger's grip on her tightened, but his expression betrayed a different emotion, fear mixed with gratitude. "Remember what I said about knowing the truth? When this is over, you'll wish you'd turned back." A sharp intake of breath came from Lila. Did she truly want to know what lay ahead? What clarity would come when the dust settled? The footsteps approached even closer, their owners almost within reach of the crate. The warehouse felt smaller, the shadows darker. And just when Lila thought she might scream, the thug that commanded them all made an unexpected announcement. "Bring out the girl. We can find him with her." A chill ran through her, the weight of impending dread settling deeper than she ever thought possible. Who was this girl? And why did they think she would lead them to something, or someone, they desperately sought? She glanced at him, her mind racing with possibilities. The stranger met her gaze with a mixture of fear and determination. Whatever secrets lay beyond their grasp, they were in this mess together. Little did they know, the truth was only beginning to unfold, and every moment spent hiding felt like a ticking bomb. Secrets were about to spill, and when they did, nothing would ever be the same. What awaited them when they emerged from this shelter? Would the truth set them free or ensnare them deeper into the web of danger? The shadows settled in, heavy and suffocating as Lila's heart raced. She squeezed her eyes shut, willing the strangers outside to disappear. The coarse wood of the crate bit into her back, but she barely noticed. The tension was electric. The thug's footsteps echoed off the warehouse walls, closing in like a tightening noose. Track her down. One barked. She can't be far. I caught a glimpse of her. Panic shot through Lila. What girl? Who are they talking about? The stranger beside her inhaled sharply. They mean you, he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper, laced with dread. Me? She echoed, disbelief mingling with fear. But why? I didn't do anything. He shifted slightly, his body pressed tight against hers. They think you're connected to something important. A key, perhaps something that'll help them find me. The air felt thick with unspoken truths, tightening her chest. Lila racked her brain, searching for fragments of memory, for anything that could explain why they were now hunting her. She'd been an ordinary girl, hadn't she? Just moments ago, she was on the brink of a quiet evening, and now death seemed like a breath away. Suddenly, the warehouse door burst open, flooding the dark interior with harsh light. Lila squinted, straining to make out the figures outlined against the brilliance. The leader stepped forward, a menacing silhouette. I know you're here. There's nowhere to hide. His voice cut through the stagnant air, dripping with malice. The stranger tensed beside Lila, his body rigid with anxiety. She could feel his unease penetrating her own. We have to move. Now. Where? She spat out the word, panic making her voice sharp. There's nowhere to go. Through the back, there's a window. It's our only chance, he said quickly, trembling hands ready to guide her. Without waiting for her reply, he slipped out from the cramped hideaway and darted toward the back of the warehouse, pulling Lila behind him. They moved silently, the shadows embracing them just as the pursuers began their search in earnest. Keep your head down, he cautioned, glancing over his shoulder as they dashed along the side of the building. Do you really think we can escape? She whispered, doubt clawing at her heart. It's a risk we have to take, he replied, determination flickering in his eyes like a dying light. I'd rather take my chances outside than become a pawn inside their game. As they reached the far end of the warehouse, Lila's breath caught. There it was, a narrow window, half open, just enough for them to escape. But the distance was too far to silently traverse without being seen. On my count, he whispered, eyes locked on hers, and suddenly the moment stretched, everything around them faded, leaving just the two of them suspended in time. 1, 2 now. They bolted for the window. Just as they reached it, a shout erupted behind them. The thugs had moved faster than they anticipated, their shadows now loomed closer. Stop right there. Lila and the man heaved their bodies together, shoving through the window. Jagged glass sliced at her skin, sharp enough to embed memories of the moment, the price of escape. She landed hard on the ground outside, the familiar hardness of the pavement meeting her body. He followed suit, pain etched across his face, yet relief washed over his features when he spotted her on the ground. Get up. We have to run. They didn't look back. As they sprinted into the night, the sounds of pursuit echoed behind them. The world around her blurred, but Lila couldn't shake the bone-deep sense that they weren't just fleeing for their lives, they were tangled in something much larger, and that sinister web was pulling them deeper. What was it that drew them into this chaos? And would their flight lead them away from the truth, or straight into the monster's den? The answer loomed closer with every desperate heartbeat, and each stride took them further down a path neither of them could escape. Lila's heart pounded in rhythm with their feet on the pavement, the night air sharp against her skin. They rounded a corner, gasping for breath while searching for a safe haven. No one spoke, but she could feel the urgency swirling between them, palpable like the fog that clung to the edges of the street. "Do you know where we're going?" she finally asked, hoping for a shred of hope. The stranger, still leading the way, glanced at her, his expression strained but determined. "There's an alley up ahead. We can take cover there, regroup." The prospect sank like a stone in her stomach. Regroup? What do we regroup for? They'll find us. He shook his head. If we keep moving without a plan, we're dead. We can't run forever. His words echoed in her mind. What did she know about survival? Until tonight, her world had been wrapped in the comfortable arms of oblivion. They slipped into the alley, shadows engulfing them as they crouched behind piles of discarded crates. Lila's skin prickled as she tasted the bitterness of fear mixed with adrenaline. She pulled at the fabric of her shirt, the remnants of the fight leaving her shaken. "What do they want with me?" she whispered desperately. "Why are they hunting you?" His eyes flickered. "I'm just the messenger, but you're the target." "Why me?" Her voice cracked, confusion creeping in. "I don't understand. I'm nobody. You're connected to something they want. Something powerful." The admission stung. She attempted to sift through her fragmented memories, trying to piece together a connection, but found nothing that fit. "You're wrong. I'm just me." "No, Lila." His eyes locked onto hers, settling on the storm of emotions swirling within. "You're more than you think. They believe you hold the key to something significant." Before he could finish, the screech of tires ricocheted down the alley, followed by the thud of doors slamming. Panic kicked in hard as their breath hitched. The thugs were close now, just around the corner. "Damn it!" he cursed under his breath, his gaze darting. "Stay quiet. Stay low." They crouched further, shoulders pressed tight against the cool wall, listening as the footsteps grew louder, the echoes dancing with malice. A voice barked orders, urgency mixed with rage. "She's here somewhere. Search every corner." A cold sweat broke over Lila's body. Were they really going to find them in this suffocating darkness? Then she caught a flicker of movement, the silhouette of a man, distinct even in the dim glow filtering from the street. He held something, a glint of silver that made her stomach drop. "Keep your voice down," he hissed again, pressing closer, hiding even more. Desperation gripped her, and she instinctively reached for his hand, the fear now a pouring torrent. "Maybe we should give ourselves up," she muttered, heart racing. "There's no way out." "No." He shot back, pressing his palms against hers. "We will not be pawns." "Then what's the plan?" Before he could answer, a figure stalked into the alley, flashlight beams sweeping over their hiding place. Time slowed as Lila's heart threatened to burst out of her chest. She could hear the crunch of gravel beneath their pursuer's boots, could feel the heaviness of dread coating her tongue. The thug edged closer, scanning the alley, a wicked smile forming as he peered into the darkness. "I know you're here. We can end this game now." Lila's grip tightened, fear coursing through her veins. Was this the end? Would they be caught in a web they could never escape? Suddenly, a thunderous crash resounded from the street, drawing the thug's attention. He jerked away, rushing towards the noise, and Lila felt her body warm with the rush of hope. "Now!" The stranger grabbed her hand, dragging her out of their cover, and they sprinted toward the light that flickered ahead. But as they reached the mouth of the alley, Lila's blood ran cold. A figure appeared, blocking their path, a woman dressed in a sharp suit, her presence radiating authority that contrasted with the abyss of chaos. "I've been looking for you, Lila," she said smoothly, eyes gleaming. "And I believe we have much to discuss." Was this ally or enemy? With shadows lurking and destinies intertwined, Lila's escape had only just begun. What secret lay buried beneath this ominous encounter? As the puzzle pieces began to shift, Lila's world became newly terrifying, more than she ever could anticipate. Nadine's heart hammered in her chest as she searched the street for Lila. When she finally spotted her, her friend's terrified eyes locked onto hers, and every doubt evaporated. Lila was alive, and that was what mattered. But just ahead, a woman in a sharp suit stepped into their path, exuding a terrifying calm amidst the chaos. Lila's face twisted with fear, and Nadine felt a pang of protectiveness surge through her. "I've been looking for you, Lila," the woman said, her voice smooth yet commanding, like silk over steel. "And I believe we have much to discuss." A sense of dread closed in around them. The world outside pulsed with darkness, lights flashing in the distance as sirens echoed in the night. Nadine could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. They were out of time and options. "Just stay close to me," she murmured to Lila, squeezing her hand for reassurance. But Lila's hand felt cold and clammy. "Nadine. I can't go back," she said, voice trembling. "I have to help him." "Help who?" Nadine pressed, the urgency in her voice barely masking her fear. "He's innocent," Lila exclaimed, her eyes darting to the shadowy figures inching closer. "They're after him for something I don't understand, but I can't abandon him." The woman chuckled softly, as if she found their plight entertaining. "You, dear, have no idea what you're entangled in. But I can help you." "Help us?" Nadine felt the coils of suspicion tightening around her heart. "Why should we trust you?" "Because if you don't," the woman replied smoothly, "you could both end up in their hands. Either way, I'm your best chance for survival right now." Nadine caught Lila's anxious gaze. With each beat of her heart, a decision loomed: trust this stranger or dive deeper into the unpredictable chaos they'd already succumbed to. "Trust is earned, not given," Nadine said, stepping closer to Lila, protective instincts flaring. "Trust me to lead you to safety, or take your chances with the law," the woman challenged, her eyes glinting like ice. "You'd be wise to think quickly." In that moment of uncertainty, the street flickered with shadows as the chaos behind them intensified. A harsh shout erupted from nearby officers. "This way!" They couldn't have gone far. With adrenaline surging through her veins, Nadine made her decision. "Let us away from here," she commanded, feeling brave despite the trembling in her hands. "But know that I won't hesitate to leave if you give me any reason to doubt you." The woman's smile widened, sharp and calculating. "Very well." They followed her, stepping into an alley that twisted away from the chaos but led deeper into uncertainty. As they moved through dimly lit streets, Nadine couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking straight into a trap. Lila didn't speak, her silence heavy with resolve. "Where are we going?" Lila finally asked, glancing nervously at the woman. "To a place where you can make a choice about what to do next," the woman replied cryptically. Lila shared a quick look with Nadine, each silently processing the weight of their circumstances. Days had turned into a whirlwind, and now choices were unfolding with alarming speed. Then, without warning, they arrived at a nondescript door tucked between two decrepit buildings. The woman knocked twice, quick taps that felt loaded with meaning, and the door creaked open to a dimly lit hallway. "Inside," she instructed, gesturing, and Lila took a hesitant step forward. Inside, the air felt thick, filled with muted voices and tension. Nadine's heart pounded louder. "Where exactly are we?" "A safe house," the woman said, her calm demeanor matching the urgency of the naive chaos. "But you have to understand, once you step in, there's no going back." Lila's pulse raced. "What do you mean?" Minor conversations around them faded as the truth settled in. The longer they lingered with uncertainty, the deeper they were in trouble. "You'll have to choose who you want to be in this world," the woman stated, locking eyes with Lila. "To stay as you are, or to step into something more." Nadine felt the weight of Lila's potential hang in the air. The girl had changed her life, shattered her illusions of safety and comfort. But did it come at a cost neither of them were ready to pay? Lila stood at the precipice of change, and Nadine wanted to keep her safe. "You'll not have to do this alone," she called softly, stepping closer. "Whatever you choose, I'm with you." A flicker of bravery ignited in Lila's eyes. "If I can save him, it could change everything." As the tension mounted, the distant sounds of chaos faded, leaving only the silence of anticipation. "Then together, we will confront this darkness," Nadine vowed, gripping Lila's hand tightly. And in that moment, they made their choice not just to step into a new reality, but to embrace an unbreakable bond forged in the fires of fear, hope, and relentless determination. They would rise or fall together, whether it meant confronting terrifying truths or unearthing their place in the world. And as the door shut behind them, sealing off the night's turmoil, the two girls faced the unknown, united in spirit, ready to forge a path forward. But with each step deeper into the shadows, they couldn't shake the feeling that fate had tethered their destinies to a greater calling, a calling that would demand everything from them, but promise even more in return. This was only the beginning. The echoes of their defiance would ripple through the fabric of their lives, but as they moved forward, a sense of hope illuminated their hearts like a beacon through the storm. Their journeys would intertwine, and together, they would confront whatever it took to emerge victorious. Now, as you reach the conclusion of this gripping tale, don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. You need to subscribe now so you're always updated, smash that like button to show your support and feed the algorithm. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending, it means the world to us. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this heart-pounding conclusion. Your engagement matters, be part of the journey.